Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Colin. I run an audio and music channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be building a Skyline Diffuser. So I was going through my shop area recently and I ended up finding a square dowel. And in order to build a Skyline Diffuser, you would probably need one 1 inch by 1 inch or 2 inch by 2 inch, I think is preferred. This one is actually 3/4 an inch by 3/4 an inch. So I'm going to be building a somewhat smaller Skyline Diffuser today, but I kind of wanted to experiment, kind of wanted to try to build one out of this. And I think it'll be fun. So if you guys do want to build one that's actually effective in a room for acoustic treatment, I would suggest going a little bit bigger and maybe using 2x2 square dowels. So what I'm doing here, guys, is just cutting the dowel in half so that I can fit it in the space to use my miter saw. It was a bit too long. I'm going to start out here with 1 inch. I set up a little stop block so I know where 1 inch is. And from there I'm going to move to 2 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch. So I'm having 4 different sizes. Here I'm actually removing the stop block since it is a bit dangerous to have your end piece that you cut off in between the stop block and the blade. You can grab the blade and throw that piece of the wood and you could potentially injure yourself. Okay guys, so my original plan was to go with 8 of the 1 inch, 8 2 inch, 8 3 inch, 8 4 inch, but I had to change that up a little bit because this is all I have left here and it's not very much. It's about 3.5 feet. So I actually ended up going with 6 of the 3 inch and I think I'm gonna try to go for 6 of the 4 inch, but I'm not calculating anything. I'm not doing this super professionally. I'm just doing it for looks, more so for a piece of artwork because I think they look cool. You guys can find tons of calculations and stuff like that if you do want to set it up in a professional way. But like I said, just doing this for artwork. And I am using a miter saw to cut all these. It just makes it super easy and quick. But you really don't need to. You can use a hand saw, you could use a circular saw, anything that's going to get the job done. Okay guys, so a slight change of plans. I actually was able to make all 8 of each size, which is awesome, and this is the only scrap that I had left. So it's kind of crazy that it worked out like that. I think the next thing that I need to do is find maybe a sheet of plywood or poster board where I can actually glue these onto. Okay guys, so I did some quick math and turns out with all of these pieces combined, we have a total of 24 square inches since all of these are 3/4 of an inch, and we have 32 pieces, I believe. Yeah, 32 pieces total. So that's 24 square inches. So I do have a small sheet of plywood right behind me here, and I think this is what I'm going to use. Simple sheet of plywood here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut a 12 by 12 square, and that should fulfill our 24 square inches. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I would suggest using a jigsaw or a circular saw to cut plywood, unless you have a table saw. But today I'm actually going to be using a circular saw for this. All right, so it didn't come out too bad. There is a ton of blowback actually on this, and I contribute that to using an 18 tooth kind of worn blade on the circular saw and not a brand new 40 tooth or anything that's meant for cutting finer pieces. But you know, that's all right. I'm just gonna run it over the miter saw a little bit to try to clean up those edges. But yeah, I don't think it came out too bad. All right guys, so my math was a little bit wrong, or actually a lot wrong, and it turns out that my square footage is going to be 4.5 by 4.5, and I did some testing and some calculations, and some of it was going over my head. I'm sure there's a super simple way to figure it out, but the way that I figured it out was that I could have 6 blocks by 6 blocks in a perfect square, which is what I want. And 6 blocks times 3/4 of an inch each side is going to be 4.5 inches per side. So I just need to cut a square, and I'm just going to use the miter saw to do that at 4.5 by 4.5. Alright guys, so it looks like this one's gonna work. It's incredibly small, but what do you expect using 3/4 inch square dowels? All that we need to do now is get some glue and start putting it together. So guys, I took a break, I went on the computer and I looked up some calculations and stuff, how you're supposed to map these out and put them together. And it turns out that I totally forgot to consider that you don't have to use a block on every single portion of your workpiece that you're gluing these onto. So with that being said, this tiny workpiece here is gonna have a block on every single portion of it, and it's probably not going to make sense, and that doesn't really matter to me. Sometime in the future I plan to build one and plan it out, take a little bit more time on it, and do it the right way. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of randomize it and make it look cool, and that's about it. Alright guys, so here I'm starting to put all the pieces together, just kind of going at a random order. I actually used a lot of the little pieces in the beginning, so I kind of waited to use those in the middle and the end. It's a pretty easy process, you know, putting it all together. I did have some pieces that weren't perfectly square, which was to be expected, so I had to be considerate of which way those were flipped so that they would fit all on the board. But they came together pretty good. I'm using Titebond 3 glue here. Pretty strong, good hold, and I would recommend it. Alright guys, so here's the final product. Finally, I think it came out great. Some of the wood was warped, so it's not perfect by any means, but it was pretty simple. Only took me about an hour tops, maybe less, to cut everything and glue everything together. So pretty simple. Of course, a larger project would take longer, and I plan to actually do that. Well, I actually thought it was going to be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. I think it still looks cool, you know, just kind of like a cool piece of artwork or something. But I hope you guys learned something today. I hope you go out and try this, if not build a bigger one than I did, and I plan to build a bigger one in the future too. So be sure to subscribe, guys. If you want to find out where I put this in my room and if I paint it or anything cool like that, comment, and I'll be sure to put it in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.